Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Tonight we're doing our Voyager Season 1 recap episode, as well as talking about first impressions of the first officers. But before we continue, you can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast.
That's correct. And as I say every single week, you should find us and follow us because we're great, we're awesome, we're a good time, and you are getting to sit through our version of a clip show. I feel like it's far more interesting than the ones that you would get on any of these particular shows because we're not just necessarily regurgitating literal scenes from other episodes, but we are going to talk about stuff that we've already watched, our impressions of the first officers and things like that, and hopefully just have a genuine, all around good time while doing
Right.
it. Now, of course, if you'd like to contribute to this at any point, you sure can. You can join us as we are live on YouTube right now. Feel free to throw any comments about any of the various episodes that we talk about into the chat there, and we'll try to cover things as best we can. Or if you're just a person who doesn't feel like doing that now and you want to hear something about it later, again, just leave a comment and we'll get to it at a later date at some point. Okay. But now, before we jump into all that, we'd like to give ourselves a chance to do a bit of a weekly recap because, in some cases, this is the only time that David and I get to also speak with each other. Um, that's not really true anymore now that we've actually started working out together. So we see each other a bit more often, but
Yeah.
still, we're not always talking about stuff like this or whatever. So, still good to give a recap. So, with that in mind, David, how has your week been?
Week's been good. Finished reading the Iliad this week. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It's the one thing I think stands out to me as I've finished reading it and now that I've started reading the Odyssey is so much of what probably makes both the Iliad and the Odyssey good and interesting is the fact that it's the first poem of its sort. It's written in Greek, however. So I don't speak Greek, I don't read Greek, and so all I have left to really think about and discuss is the plot and the characters and such. So I feel like I'm missing half of what makes the Iliad, if that makes sense. So there's a part of me that finds it interesting and enjoyable. Another part of me finds it kind of tedious, and it was long. A lot of it was kind of repetitive. Like so much of what happens is one side's winning, then the other side's winning, then this side's winning, then the other side's winning, and they back and the forth, the back and the forth, and the whole point leads to the conclusion that like Achilles is the greatest fighter. He sits out most of the battle, and then he comes back at the end, and he wins the war basically. But there's so much that you want to like interrogate about the story and about how it's told, but because you don't speak Greek or I don't speak Greek, you don't read Greek, part of it is like, well, it's just I'm just missing it. So, for example, if it's poetry, then form really matters. You know, in poetry, form matters. And so,
Mhm.
if part of what I'm missing is the form of the story, then that could maybe answer some questions about why things are a certain way. And all I can get as an English speaker is just someone writing, oh, by the way, in Greek, this is like that. This is how it's written in the original Greek. So I enjoyed it, but it's not something that I ever intend to like go back to anytime soon and like, oh man, really, I want to read it again. It was so good. It's more like now I've read it. I'm
It's
glad to have read it, and I'm done. I read
so
the Iliad.
so so basically it's one of those, obviously it's a context matters situation.
I imagine
You
that would
need
be
more
a
context. I
yeah. Well,
only reason
so
why I the only reason why I make that statement is because, again, I remember when this was being taught to me in school, and one of the things that was, at the time, I felt over communicated was the fact that Greek life was so vastly different from ours. And
oh yeah.
so my teacher kept trying to give us this contextual frame of reference. And in particular, with their literature, there was this like trend, I guess would be the best way to say it. Yeah. So trend of they were taking actual events that were going on in their day in their day to day, and then they would transcribe them, and they would put them into a poetic flow.
Right.
A lot of what you were reading is kind of like almost like a version of getting the news is how it was reported.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Sure.
but they were doing it in a way to entice you to listen to them, to always come back to them
Right.
to get the news. And so they found that by presenting it in this more poetic meter and by taking certain license with things to make you interested in their poem, their story that they're telling, some things were intentionally, constructed in a way so that you were like, oh, well, I listened to poet A over here and he said this. And it's like, oh, well, you got to go to this guy over here. He's much better because he frames things this. And so it's kind of like that. And so
Hmm.
just depending on who you were hearing your news from, the
Hmm.
poetic flow was different and you might
Right.
have got a different context from the story.
Yeah. Yeah. That certainly makes sense. I Part of what's so interesting about the Iliad is how much of it is inspired by true events and how much it is it just someone making
Yeah,
up a story. Um, and of course, the best analogy for what's happening is it is basically this is their version of Marvel and DC. These are
exactly. Yeah. This is,
yeah,
but it's also supposed to be these were true events. Like
right,
Troy existed, these people
right,
existed, but again, this is as much news of the world that's going on as it was a puff piece about King Agamemnon. So if
right.
you were a fan or a follower of or a subject of King Agamemnon, you wanted to know that he had the best fighters going with him while he did this thing, and that Troy was this opulent whatever. It
Right.
was that kind of stuff too. So it's kind of like our own bit of propaganda, right? Our king is going to war, and yeah, oh, they're calling him a tyrant. Well, we know he's not really a tyrant because stuff like that is mixed in there
Well, I
too.
haven't heard that interpretation. That's an interesting
Yeah,
idea. I mean, Homer is, according to the introduction to the Robert Fagles Penguin edition of the Odyssey and the Iliad, Homer is believed, at least again according to the introduction, the basically the inheritor of the like a bardic tradition of the
hmm
story,
hmm
and he, for whatever reason, somehow managed to get it written down. But
yeah,
what's really interesting about what the introduction says is that there were certain like they didn't they're proposing that they weren't reciting it by memory the whole way through, like every line was always the same every single time, but that they had stock phrases, they had stock moments, they had certain ways of saying a name or saying like someone's nickname to make it fit into the poetical nature of the
yeah,
story. And so the story would be, whenever the bard would tell the story, they might change certain details, but they knew the general gist, and they knew the stock phrases, so they could hit the beats whenever they were supposed
yeah,
to. And Homer basically solidifies the story by writing it down somehow.
yeah.
Um,
So it was told to me as that basically, like I was saying, you had like this poet who did this, and that. Homer was like the most famous one, and
right.
Homer's whole reason for being famous was basically that he set himself up as being the one that was like, this is what happened, and I know that it happened because it was told to me by this person.
Hmm.
So he became like the most well known, the most connected, or whatever. And then what you're talking about of having certain phrases, and they would say things a certain way. Homer, again, I don't know how my teacher knew this or whatever. So again, just take this for this was again me being a teenager. This is being taught to me, but basically it was that Homer figured out how to basically make it to where um, you knew he was telling the truth
Hmm.
because that phrase you heard that one time from wherever, he used it too. So it rang true because you heard that before from whomever. And so Homer was so consistent with doing that, that people tended to go to him and come back to him because his stories consistently had the ring of truth to them because
Right.
he used all of the right phrasing and the
Mhm.
sentence structure and the whatever. And then again, it was never, oh, Homer is telling you this. This is Homer is relating the thing to you that he heard from this person who is beyond reproach.
Right.
So that's why he became like, well, and then he used that to his advantage to get like other, important people and, famous, kings and whatever else. They also used Homer as a way to solidify their own stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, Homer was like the ultimate in propaganda and puff pieces and whatever else because he just solidified all the stuff for people. So there
Right.
were plenty of other poets and stuff going around, but a lot of times what they ended up doing was they would just base their stuff off of whatever it was Homer said. It was just
Mhm.
easier at that point
Yeah.
than, and so yeah,
Exactly.
there might have been some things that were truthful that were lost because Homer would not adopt them, would not use them. And then there were other things that
Mhm.
made a story easier to tell or
Right.
easier to relate to someone else, or hey, this is a great way to make a connection that this king is related to this king or has this dealing with this person or whatever else. And then Homer would use that. And so that's kind of how all of that stuff was flowing together. At least
Right.
that was what was told to me. And that always stuck with me. It's like, dang, even ancient Greece had, propaganda and stuff going
Yeah.
on. So yeah, that's what was one of the main things I remember from that um intro to ancient Greek literature and everything else.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, part of the reason it's been interesting to read the Iliad and now start the Odyssey is that the Arthur Merlin, no, the Pendragon Cycle books that I've been reading, Merlin is supposed to be a bard. He's supposed to be the last great bard, and so there are moments in the books where the author of the Pendragon Cycle has Merlin sing a song. And it's presented as prose to us as the readers. We're just reading the story, but in the story, he's supposed to be like singing it. But these stories are very bizarre. They're very nonsensical kind of stories, and they're presented in such a way as though maybe they have something to say to the characters in the story about what's going on. Like it's
mhm,
it's like a commentary on their own situation.
mhm,
But the events are so random and bizarre. Like these stories are so fantastical that it reminds me in some ways of like what's going on with the Iliad, because the Iliad does not present it as fantastical in the sense like it doesn't make sense. The story makes sense, but the gods are involved and the gods participate, and just the idea that there would have been someone whose job it was to do this. It's funny that I'm reading a story where there's a bard character, and then the Iliad and the Odyssey are written by someone who actually was a bard of sorts in the real world. And so I find that to be kind of fun that I, excuse me, getting that like two different angles of that idea. And then the last thing I'll just say is that I rewatched Troy this week. I did watch
mm,
Troy about a month ago. When I started the Iliad, I was like a week or two into reading it. I was like, I was with my parents. They were like, we want to watch a movie. I was like, well, why don't we watch Troy? I liked watching Troy, and then I watched the extended edition just this past week because I finished the Iliad. I really like the movie. In fact, I don't even argue that I like the movie better than than the actual Iliad.
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Brad Pitt does a great job. Eric Bana does a great job as Hector. The plot is definitely inspired by the events like the Iliad writes, but they are told in totally new ways.
yeah,
Brad Pitt's Achilles is not the same character that the Iliad presents Achilles as. Characters have
yeah,
the same names. They even have very similar events in terms of how things go, but it's a totally new retelling of the story.
yeah,
And I like it. I actually like it. I feel like at the very least, by modernizing the story, they modernize the context of events and motivations. Like we as audience members can understand it. The acting's great, but every single character is given a relatable story. Like you understand every single character in the movie.
mhm,
Um, so I really like it, and it's also interesting that one of the characters of the Iliad is also called Paris, and we have a character in Star Trek Voyager who is also a Paris. So just been making context, cross references all over the place. So, but yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Been also reading more of Children of Virtue and Vengeance. She definitely has progressed the story here into the second book, and she's definitely done a good job of like making the conflict that she started with see it seems insurmountable. Like the problems that they're encountering of this magical society that has tried to eradicate magical people, and like just the problems of the problems that she has presented seem insurmountable. So she's really gonna have to work hard to like move the plot forward. So I look forward to her working to overcome the problems that she, as the author, has given herself as a storyteller. Again, the storytelling is also again meant more for young girls, young adult fiction. So it doesn't improve. I'm sorry, it has improved since the earliest chapters of the first book. The first book are definitely rough, but it's still overall the same sort of writing. So it's not my favorite, but I'm willing to give it a shot and push through.
Okay.
I should be done. Let's see. I should be done with it by the time I think we meet next time,
Okay.
possibly. I'll see if we're where I'm at. But
Okay.
yeah, so there's that, and then I'm looking forward to the new Fire Emblem game, Fortune's Weave, that comes out this September. So for anyone who likes the Fire Emblem series, there's a new game coming out. So, but yeah, other than that, pretty good week at work. What's up with
Okay.
you?
Well, yeah, as you know, we've been continuing to do our workouts, and boy, do I have some stuff in store for you this week because we're going to be changing some stuff up. So look forward
Ooh,
to beating you down
ooh.
to build you back up, as they say. Um,
Gosh,
and also,
way too
and
much
just
relish in saying that.
also just on that same on the Troy front, I just want to say, if there's ever a clear proof that our phone's listening to us, we talked about you reading the Iliad and the Odyssey and Troy and stuff last week, and you said that you went back and watched Troy again, and it just clicked in my head that all this week on YouTube, I've been getting nothing but um well, not just
Troy
nothing,
clips.
but I've been getting Troy clips
Mm.
over and over again. And so I just found that really funny that it just clicked in my head that, oh, this past week you've watched several Troy clips, and I've never searched for that movie. I've never said, you know what, let me find this scene, or that's never happened. It's just been popping up.
Yeah.
I have been keeping my eye on some interesting developments in the sci-fi world. For those of you who are major sci-fi fans, you will know that the Doctor Who series is basically DOA.
Mm.
At this point, Russell T Davis, who's been the longtime showrunner, the one who is credited with kind of bringing back and saving Doctor Who, is no longer going to be working on it. There was a plan for a new special that apparently there were several major issues between Davies and the powers that be, and eventually that led to him walking away. There was even a reveal of who the next Doctor was going to be. That's all been canceled. I mean,
Mm.
even if they've already put the face out there of the next Doctor, all of
Mm.
that has been canceled. There is no, from what I was able to discern from the various articles and stuff that have come out, and some other, people in the know anyway. There is absolutely nothing that says they are contractually obligated to honor what it was that Davis has set up. So if you're expecting that person to be the next Doctor, don't count on it. Apparently, there is like a big to do about this, and it's causing quite the upheaval over there. So,
Right.
yeah, sorry, Doctor Who fans. I like Doctor Who. Don't get me wrong. I found Doctor Who at a interesting point in my life, and I've always appreciated the show. I have fallen out with my viewership, I guess, but one of the great things about the show was the fact that you can. And you can come back and you can watch stuff, and you don't have to agree with everything, because chances are it'll change,
Hmm.
as soon as the next doctor comes along or whatever it is. Now, before we started this show tonight, I saw an interesting fact that was put out there, and it was "The Death of Sci-Fi" was the title of the article,
Oh.
and what it stated was all three major sci-fi franchises are all dead in 2026. There is no new Star Wars, there's no new
Oh,
Star Trek, and now there's no new Doctor
Doctor
Who.
Who.
All of them are done in
Mm,
2026. Now, the caveat to that is there are still things that are going to be released, but there is nothing new in production. All of the things that
right.
we're going to be seeing released in the next months, or in the case of Star Trek, a couple of years, they've all finished filming either right before 2026 or in 2026. There is
Right.
nothing new coming out. So it's shocking because these are like the longest running, most famous sci-fi franchises, and they're all done.
Yeah.
They're all done. Now, whether someone's gonna, look at this and be like, "Oh my God, we've got to get back out there and pump out another Star Wars or whatever to keep that cash cow going," who
Right.
knows? With Disney now in control of the majority of Star Wars, I don't anticipate Star Wars being shelved for very long. So I would not be surprised at all. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Disney has its hooks in Doctor Who
They
as
did
well.
for a time this last couple seasons, I heard, but part of the reason that there's no more Doctor Who now is that Disney also pulled out of helping make any more Doctor Who stories. So yes,
Okay.
for a couple like the last 2 seasons, I guess they were helping, but they also pulled out, and that's also why it's dying.
Well,
So
and that may be why Russell Davis is out as showrunner, because again, he's been doing it for a while. Like I remember when um, I had just graduated from college, and that's when I first heard that name, Russell
right,
T. Davis. So I mean, that's been a strong 20 years. So
yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I just an interesting little factoid there that all three major franchises are effectively dead in 2026. I know that Star Trek, when it comes to Skydance, Paramount Plus, that merger, that has not gone well for sci-fi in general, in regards to uh, sci-fi on Paramount. So
mm,
there's lots of rumors going on there about why that is. Everything from it's too expensive to make, to the new CEO of Paramount hates the progressivism of Trek. That's been floated around in some circles as well. Um, I don't know that person, and I have not seen anything that says that she has officially said that. So I don't know. Could she have said it? Sure, of course she could. She also could have said the moon is purple and has ice cream on the backside. I mean, that's as much evidence as I have of any of this. So I don't know. I would
right,
hope that any person who is in that position of power would also recognize that there are millions of fans who love the stuff and have loved it for years and wouldn't cancel this because they personally don't like it. But
right.
who knows? You know. Isn't Mandalorian and Grogu this year? Yes, it is this year, but that's what I'm saying. It was a product that came out this year. There is nothing new in production. There's nothing else that's going to come out later this year or is slated for 2027 or beyond. All three major franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, um,
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, are all dead. All production is dead on them as of now in 2026. So that's it. Still reading a bunch of different books. I'm probably gonna have to like just stop that and like finish one and then move to the next one, move to the next one. So we'll get to that, of course. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Um, oh, and last little side note, because I'm rather proud of it. I got my new phone today, and I've been, of course, tinkering away, fixing stuff, doing stuff, moving stuff around because it's my new piece of shiny whatever that's now also listening to me and probably categorizing a lot of other things that I'm saying. And the next time I log into YouTube or Reddit or whatever else, it's going to give me a bunch of crazy, crazy propaganda, I'm sure.
Of
But you're
course.
not here to talk about all that. We are here to talk about Star Trek. And again, this is our Star Trek Voyager Season 1 recap and our discussion of the first impressions of the first officer. So, with that part in particular, what I want to say is we're not going to be doing necessarily a shot for shot comparison of Season 1 Riker versus Season 1 Kira versus Season 1 Chakotay. This is kind of like we've already watched those guys, Riker and Kira, respectively. How
Mhm.
is Chakotay starting to measure up so far that we've seen? This will probably be a conversation that we come back to, obviously, several times because we've got several more seasons to go through. But it's a fun little thing to do since we often do comparisons of the captains. Let's see how
Mhm.
their, second in commands stack up a
No,
little bit here as well. Um, but let's start with Voyager itself. Season one. You have never seen Voyager at all. What did you think of this first season, especially coming off of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and now you're into this?
yeah, so I definitely feel like I've probably said some of this before, so I don't want to try to repeat myself, but I want to make clear. Um, I'm not a huge fan of this cast in the same way as like TNG or Deep Space Nine. TNG presents professionals at the height of their professionalism. They
Mhm.
are serious characters in serious roles, and they take themselves seriously. Paris, that's a guy who doesn't quite take things seriously, doesn't quite take himself seriously. Kim is young. He's an ensign. He is
This is his first posting. He's
right.
fresh from the academy.
Exactly. We have these marquee characters who have hostility and um, to the Federation, etc. Now, all of this can make for some great drama, and of course, if it was just copy paste of TNG, then it would get it'd probably be even more negatively compared to TNG. It is its own unique thing, so give it its due. But still, I'm not as big a fan of Paris. Paris is, I mean, he's this weird womanizer. He's has this past of being
Would
breaking the rules, and like I want serious characters who will take things seriously. And
would it be fair to say then for you that so far, at least from all of season one that you witnessed, Paris is your least favorite character?
yeah, he's my least
Okay.
favorite. And
So then
it's
who would your most favorite be? Just real quick.
Tuvok,
Just okay.
no question. Yeah,
Okay, so now you can keep. I just wanted to know where on the spectrum you were lying, and
right.
I have to give you saying you couldn't have picked two better diametrically opposed individuals
And I'm
than
sure I'm not
Paris and
outside the
Tuvok.
realm of most people's.
You
I probably fall right
you are
along with it.
not.
Most people, yeah.
I will tell you this in all of my years um, talking with people who've watched this show and everything else. You are spot on with your
Mr. Normie over here.
Paris issue versus and picking Tuvok. If you had said Janeway, you would have been in line as well. But
Ah,
picking Tuvok as an opposite of Paris is great.
right.
So yeah, you're in good company. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tuvok, of course, as a Vulcan, fits that serious character takes himself seriously role right away. So,
He's probably the most professional
oh
of
yes,
the crew that we see.
right,
Especially in the first season. He's probably the most professional.
right.
Yeah.
And we've already had some great storylines with him, like when he's possessed by the alien and has been the betrayer of sorts.
Mhm.
When he kind of he takes the what the in the episode where the Marquis chick defects, he also does something.
Seska.
Seska, yeah, Seska defects, but he also does what he takes some device somewhere. No, that's not it. That's not Seska is involved. That's before Seska
Oh,
does
you're
that.
talking about where they trade Voyager's library for
Right, that's what it
the
was.
subspace trajector thing,
And
and
he
he
says
takes
that basically Janeway was in a position where she couldn't compromise her values, so he did it so she could still maintain her authority, but
yes.
he could accomplish what needed to be accomplished. So he's an interesting character. He's willing. He has been more willing to do certain things. The last episode we watched, which was Learning Curve, he's the one who has to learn the lessons about how to teach people. Even that episode was a little bit flawed. Um, so yeah, he's definitely the best character. We haven't really seen anything where Paris has to really learn a lesson, I would say. We've seen Kim, um, kind of make some. I mean, Kim's a nice character, but we haven't really seen him or Paris really have to work through something difficult. We've seen B'Elanna Torres deal with some things, so I'd say that she's almost like number two in terms of my favorite characters because she's actually had some serious issues, like the Faces episode. Um, the the issue I have with Janeway is that I'm having a hard time really. I mean, not entirely. I feel like she is a captain, but there are times when I've said this before. There are times when like something happens and she gets a worried look on her face, and she like looks around primarily at Chakotay to like get his reaction. And Chakotay is doing a better job of maintaining a stoic face than she is. And I'm like, hey, you're the captain. You need to be better about holding your nerve a little bit
Mhm.
when something comes up. So I just want her to do a better job of that. Um, Kate Mulgrew is a lovely lady, so she looks lovely in this first season. I know she will get her hair cut at some point, but right now I'm a sucker for long and thick hairstyles. So anyway, whatever that is, if you want that particular thing from me, Neelix, of course, is kind of that. He's kind of like a Quark character. He's the oddball of the group that doesn't quite belong, but he's a regular, so we see a lot of him. But he's not like Quark in that his presence is antagonistic and therefore draws out other things from other characters. His being the oddball out is more about him being just awkward and weird than Quark being alien and therefore as an alien to amongst aliens, to be fair, his particular alienness is grating. But Neelix is
Yeah.
just kind of bizarre. And then what's the chick that he's in a relationship with?
Kess.
Kess. Kess is sweet, and I like her, but I honestly would rather her be away from Neelix in a sense. Like Neelix is just
Again, you are in good company, sir.
yeah, like Neelix is just this weight on her leg that's like I get her away from him and make her a part of the actual freaking crew and let's get her doing some things, taking action. I would rather see her character
And
like driving choices. Hey, I'm the one who knows the Delta Quadrant, and I'm the one who knows how to help you guys get home. But I'm also frail because I'm a woman. I don't know, not frail as a woman. I don't know. I'm just she's a better character than Neelix,
they
and
they've already, I mean, when we first see the Neelix and Kess introduction, they are very clingy with each other. But
right,
we've already started to see, even in season one, Kess is starting to find her own way, her own voice with things. She's helping the doctor a bit, whatever. But we do still have, whenever anything happens or whatever it is, Neelix is right there to kind of like, reinforce this kind of clingy nature, which it's problematic. It really is. And
uh-huh.
Neelix, the way you're feeling, the way you're talking about him, that is something that, again, a lot of people have talked about over the years. And it's, I will say, it gets better for him.
Okay,
It
yeah.
gets
I
better.
mean, characters like him, he's obtuse. He has an obtuseness about him. He was talking with uh, Tuvok in the last episode, and like it helped Tuvok kind of understand what's going on. But Neelix's like insistence that he knows what he's doing all the time. He's offended by anyone suggesting otherwise. That kind of personality. It's just
So
it's
I
grating.
will say, and again, I cannot believe I am defending Neelix, but
Ah,
it's important to remember that Neelix is the truly alien one in a lot of these situations.
right,
All of everyone else, except for Kess, of course, they're all from the Alpha Quadrant. They're all familiar with each other to one degree or another.
right,
Neelix and Kess are truly unknowns. They are natives to the Delta Quadrant. They are not a species that has any ties whatsoever with any Federation species or whatever. So their attributes are vastly different.
right,
And I think it's just always important to notice because Neelix does get hit with a lot of criticism. And I think if you just remember that it's also our own bit of bias to a degree,
hmm
that we're used to Vulcans, Andorians, Romulans, Klingons, Tellarites, whatever it is, right? We're used to hearing those names and seeing their mannerisms to whatever degree and whatnot. Neelix and Kess are new.
right.
And so they're going to be different. So give them, a little bit of slack, cut him a little bit of slack there.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll come back to Neelix because he does a lot of things that um I'm gonna take him to task on later, but we'll get there.
Right.
Oh no, do not. Sorry, just saw in the chat here. Someone is trying to interweave the Enterprise theme into this. We are not going there. All right. We have not crossed that bridge. We are not doing that. Okay. So you keep Faith of the Heart away from our Voyager conversation. Thank you very much. Um, so is there any other characters besides Tuvok, Janeway, and Paris that have made an impression on you? Well, I think you said B'Elanna as well.
Yeah,
Um,
B'Elanna. Now, B'Elanna is she has a very similar problem to Worf, obviously. A character who has both a human element and a Klingon element about them. Now, Worf is biologically fully Klingon, but he
but
was
was raised
raised
by humans.
culturally by humans. And B'Elanna Torres is half, half and half human, half Klingon, but raised by a Klingon mother in a human settlement. So she
Yes,
has a very different experience. Now, the fact that it's very similar but different, it's almost copy paste, means they're going to have to work hard to make
yeah,
her struggle unique to her. They have someone else we can compare her story against. And the reason Worf was always so interesting is because in his need to identify with his Klingonness, he overemphasized his Klingonness. He
yeah,
was the
yeah,
model Klingon according to
right,
the ideals of what he thought Klingonness was.
right.
And
He studied Klingons and then took what he studied and tried to apply it to life, not realizing there are a lot of shades of gray that he did not integrate into himself.
exactly, so much of what his storylines when it comes to his Klingonness are about is coming up against the reality of actual Klingons and how they fail to meet those standards. Like the
Yes,
Klingon Council is actually a corrupt, scheming organization that would rather, maintain its prestige than deal with things honorably, per se.
correct.
So now Torres, I don't imagine we're going to get much chance for her to be with other Klingons, obviously. So whatever Klingonness she has to deal with, like the Faces episode gave us that chance. So it's almost like, well, have we solved her Klingon problem here in season one? Are we going to get more of that? Or
No, we haven't solved her Klingon problem, and we're just kind of just as a mild spoiler for you, her problems are going to be less outward antagonism or perception because he's Klingon, and more an internal. She's battling with this, like as we saw in the Faces episode,
aggressive part
this
of her?
internal conflict, right? Her own long-standing trauma from not accepting the fact that she is half human, half Klingon, and how to properly deal with it. So
Right.
there's going to be this outgrowth of her having to go through things before she really comes to terms with herself. So her road is more about self-acceptance than Worf's being more about realizing how would we phrase that for Worf? More than one way to view the world, I guess, because Worf goes through several different perspective shifts before he finally comes to grips with um, who he is versus how other Klingons operate. I
Right.
actually saw it put out there one time that Worf's problem isn't that he's Klingon, but his problem is that he was raised by Russians, and I cracked up when I read that. I was like, "Oh man."
Oh boy.
Um, don't like the stories of Blana coming to grips with her half Klingon nature. I've got some bad news. Yeah, yeah, bad news for you, because
Yeah.
that's kind of going to be her struggle. And again, we don't want to get
Well,
too
I
deep.
don't mind that. My point is that
No,
we
you
already.
will. Sorry, but you're going to mind it. I will tell
Oh,
you
okay.
that that's my spoiler when we get to, especially when we get into like seasons, 5 and 6, and they're doing some stuff. I think that's going to really start to bother you because you've already expressed from Deep Space Nine an affinity for the outgrowth of Klingon culture and what we've seen and how they've really done a great job of building out Klingons.
Yeah,
What we're going to see with B'Elanna,
is more
not
of a
so much.
deconstruction of it.
Yeah, not so much
Yeah.
a good time. So yeah,
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll have to keep that in mind then when we get there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We'll come back to that. What do you think of Voyager? So this is our we're back on a ship after being on Deep Space Nine for forever. The last
mhm.
ship that we saw was, of course, the infamous Enterprise D. What do you think of Voyager? This smart, fast ship.
Yeah, the ship is fine. I mean, it doesn't seem to have the prestige, of course, the Enterprise, obviously. Um, have we ever seen them go straight to Warp 9 yet? I don't feel like I remember ever hearing them say, let's do Warp 9, Mr. Paris, or
No, I don't think so. I don't think we've
right.
seen that yet.
Right. Um, the bridge is definitely more professional than the Enterprise is more, diplomatic, sort of open.
Open,
uh,
bright,
yeah.
comfy,
Now,
carpeted bridge.
Now, part of me likes that in the sense that Enterprise's bridge almost doesn't make any sense when you start thinking about it. Why are they standing in the background when so many of conflicts result in characters being flown half across the map or across the room? They're already standing, so you have to work at your station standing the whole time. I mean, Tuvok and
So you
Kim are
don't.
standing too, so I guess that's not
Yeah.
fair.
Well,
Um,
and they're not. They're not. There are chairs behind Harry
right,
and Tuvok Station, and also on the bridge of the Enterprise, there are chairs. It's just they tuck into those alcoves. We see the chairs on several different occasions. You just
okay,
forget that they're there because a lot of times when they're doing those panning shots of the bridge or someone's walking by real quick in that upper area, no one is sitting down. But
right.
multiple times we've seen Data sitting on the bridge up there. Remember infamously in season one with the Binars episode,
Uh,
Picard and Riker have to sit next to each other at those upper consoles and they pull the chairs out. The chairs blend into the station. Yeah, I always thought it was such a cool feature because when you're walking by it, you absolutely would not know there's a chair there, but
right.
there is. Yeah. So
But
there are chairs.
okay. Well, the thing is they have the carpeted bridge and the chairs that Riker and Deanna sit at are like right next to the captain's chair, and the captain's chair is very lounge like. I don't know if lounge
Yeah.
is the right word. So Voyager, we got a darker set, we got a more professional, it would seem more battle station ready
Yeah.
ship, and I like that. And so two comments. First, in Star Trek First Contact is when we first see the new Enterprise, right? The Enterprise E, or
Yes.
is that okay? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
looking at First Contact here, and that one definitely takes more inspiration from the Voyager set than the classic
Yes.
TNG set. So I kind of like it. It's like, and on the whole, it's like they were moving toward a more professional look. However, I will say that you probably like TNG was TNG because of that set. I mean, how much of
Yeah.
every story was those characters on that bridge on that set doing something on the screen? Like
So so
you,
in so in universe, the Enterprise D was a ship that was constructed at the height of the Federation in peacetime. So
right,
the bridge was supposed to be seen as this very elaborate place that was basically like when the visiting aliens would come on, they were to be impressed by the the style, the prestige of it, the openness of it, walk
yeah,
across this way to our great observation lounge where we're going to have our stateroom meeting, and
right,
like that was the whole point. It was so bright and it's cushiony, and this is the Federation at its best. We're offering when we come to you in First Contact, we are bringing this comfort, this grand knowledge, right? um the Enterprise E, on the other hand, is a ship that was born out of a we are building this ship um
prepare for the
to
Borg.
to be prepared for battle.
Yeah,
We've been at war with the Dominion. The Romulans are a constant threat. The Borg are ever present, and we know that they're just waiting for an opportunity. We need ships that can not only respond with grace and elegance, but also with precision and firepower. And
Right.
so while the Enterprise E is still, pretty, she's more functional. The
Right.
Sovereign is um is the grand dam basically. She's everything. She
Right.
can be just as beautiful and impressive as the E, but she is maneuverable, she is powerful, she's got a bite, she's
Yeah.
that. And then Voyager is kind of, I always felt like, was an outgrowth of both of those. We want a ship that can maneuver, that has ability, that fights with precision and can give us that, but also there is a certain level of comfort there. There is a level of um impressiveness with it as well. So
Right.
I always found like certain aspects of the bridge were a little clumsy. Like I don't like all the stairs. I don't like all the mini stairs that are
Yeah.
everywhere. You got stairs that go down to the captain's ready room. There's stairs that, instead of it being like a little arching ramp right there, it's
Yeah.
stairs that go to the turbo lift and beyond. You got stairs on the other side for where the conference room is. You got a little stair step down from where the captain sits down to the pilot seat where Tom Paris is. A lot of stairs. I don't like it. I
Yeah.
always thought that was clumsy because, I mean, like you said, in crunch time and things are flying around
Ah,
and
trip.
all that, yeah, you trip and fall. And I've
Bust your
never
chin
seen,
open. Yeah.
right, I have never seen a staircase that can help you absorb a blow to your face.
Yeah.
You fall down them, you fall up them, you fall just right, you're breaking some facial structure there.
It's
So
funny you
I don't
say
like
all that
stairs.
because my roommate in the house we have here the room that he's in is off of another room, but it's two steps down from the living room. So you go from the living room two steps down to his other room, and then his room's right next to it. And he just said tonight that he would have to begrudgingly admit, or like he doesn't want to admit how many times he's almost fallen off those stairs, like just
Yeah.
slipped and
And you would think that because it's just so few stairs, 2 to 3 steps or whatever, and they're kind of low, that it wouldn't be a problem. But to me, they're the most dangerous because it is so close to the end
right,
that a lot of times you've missed them, you skip them, and then your brain half remembers what you've already kind of taken yourself out of, and then all of a sudden you're tripping and falling. I would love to ask the actors how
hmm
many times when you're supposed to be moving with a sense of purpose and urgency, how many times did you guys trip on those stairs?
yeah.
Someone had to. There had to be a couple people who've fallen, who
There's
got,
some bloopers somewhere
yeah,
out
there's some
there. Yeah.
bloopers. Someone got some stitches, something, and
Mhm.
because unfortunately it's introduced into the show, they couldn't replace it later. They
Yeah.
couldn't take it out.
Yeah, this
Sorry.
show is all about the Voyager ship being stuck
Yeah,
as it is. Yeah.
yeah, the ship is hard set. So I'm sorry, Tom, that you're a klutz. Get it together, man. We'll do our best to put makeup on the stitches you've got from your split
Right.
chin.
Yeah.
But yeah, do
Do you
your.
know that anything happened like that, or you're just
I
supposing
honestly
it?
don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I would love to ask them. Hey, who fell the most? Because
Right.
I know someone did. Just human nature tells me someone fell
Right.
during all this. Garrett Wayne guarantee. You know what? I'd believe that, especially if you think about how his station is set up. He's got that little alcove right there, and then
Uh-huh.
like if you come out from around his alcove, and there's an immediate set of steps for the conference room on that side. I 100% can see them coming out of the conference room, everybody going to take their stations, him walking up those steps and just eating it, just absolutely face plant, because he's getting to a station so quick, he thinks he's just going to snap to. Totally, I can see that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I can also see Janeway falling a lot because her movement, because she's sitting in the captain's chair, she goes out and goes down the steps to the captain's ready room. Or if she, not when she's going to the ready room, she falls a lot, but in that having to round the steps to go
hmm
up to the turbo lift, think about that. She's got to walk down a couple of steps, then do a quick turn to walk up the steps to
Right.
hit the turbo lift. That little changeover I could see causing issues for people.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know who designed that and who thought that would be a cool little thing to have them have to hop around, but
Right.
I'm sure someone fell a few times and someone was like,
Yeah.
Honestly, why are there steps here? Like, who did this? I can see that.
Right.
So yeah, if I was ever on one of these shows and I walked onto my bridge set and I saw steps, I'd be like, nope, sorry. Before we film one thing, I need a ramp.
Right.
You're gonna have to put a ramp here for me. I am
Right.
not busting my face open uh to for this.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here in our final bits of our show, because I mean we're at almost an hour, and I mean obviously we have no problem with going over, but want to give us a chance to really speak on um, first officers again, first impressions of first officers. So we are going to be talking about um, Riker, Kira,
Kira Chakotay.
and Chakotay. We are not going to be talking about Tuvok, not Tuvok, but Spock, because he is a part of the original series. And also, I don't know how much of the original series David has watched, but an extra also, Spock has achieved an upper level status that it's just not fair to compare him to other people.
Yeah.
Spock is apex. Spock is top tier. Spock is the man, and I just don't think there's ever going to be
Well,
someone that can really top him. And
yeah.
I don't even want to. I don't even want to just kind of level him into the debate at all. Spock has achieved a legendary first officer status that is just forever solidified. So we're
Well,
not comparing him.
I do want to say that there is probably one thing that's unique um not Tuvok,
Spock.
Spock. My God, someone's
Hey,
gonna
I did it
shoot
too.
me.
I did it too.
Yeah, something about Spock that's a little bit different. I mean, I haven't seen the original series, but it seems to me that Spock is not a first officer like Chakotay or Riker in that it is literally a command position where your job is number two. He's also the science officer, Spock, right?
Correct.
Isn't he
Mhm.
also kind of like doing his own thing? And so basically, if Kirk was ever out of commission, yes, he would take the position, but he's not there in quite the same way to enforce discipline amongst the crew or to execute the orders of the captain, right? Is he
No, he is. He is,
right?
but it's just that this is where like command styles
A
are
question?
comparison. Yeah,
Sure.
because Kirk was way more hands-on with stuff like that. Kirk did a lot of that himself,
Right.
and Spock was always there basically to kind of reinforce it. So yeah, Kirk would issue an order or just have a general rule or whatever of how things are supposed to be, and Spock followed that and enforced that. But if there was ever a person who stepped out for whatever reason, typically Kirk handled it before Spock ever had to. So
Okay.
that's just whereas with Picard and Janeway, when people step out, Picard directly referred to Riker and
Right.
to do it. To be like, look, I'm not even. I don't want to, and that was, and I always felt like that was Picard's choice of being, as we see in the very first episode, Picard was not a people person, and he says so, and
Right.
he's just like, I don't want to
He's
have to deal with these things. I will do it if I have to, but you really don't want me to have to. It's kind of how he put that out there.
Picard has an aloofness that Kirk doesn't. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Kirk liked interacting with the crew and having that sense of interpersonal comfortability that Picard never had.
Right.
Picard liked his distance. Picard liked being kind of seen as this, upper level statesman type, even amongst his own crew, and then
So part
yeah,
part of the reason I think this is an interesting question to talk about is because you said earlier, that of course the Enterprise D from TNG was built during a more peaceful time, and
mhm,
so it's more of a diplomatic ship than a warship.
correct.
So I'm curious if you think that in the Kirk era, is it even more so a quote unquote peaceful time, and therefore Kirk can be more
No.
informal for that reason? No. Okay.
No, it's definitely billed as in the TOS era, these guys are um space explorers. In fact, it's been put even within the franchise itself, they refer to them as cowboys and that they employed what was called cowboy
Avoid
diplomacy.
diplomacy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, it's very much we shoot from the hip. Kirk is still the man who makes the rule and it's the decree, whatever, but it was also, Starfleet is way far away. Reinforcements, if you're going to get them at all,
Wow.
are incredibly remote, again, very far away. Whatever decision that you make, whatever action you take, you're going to have to live with it, because our ability to get to you to reinforce things or to even chastise you or whatever it is so remote. That's kind of how this was. These guys are just lone ships flung out into deep space, making first contact and doing whatever it is. So you got to figure it out. Otherwise, you die. And
Right.
that's why Kirk was so famous, because Kirk made a lot of, shoot from the hip decisions that often tended to be right, or at least gave him the one up to get his crew out of there.
Right.
And it also helps that the Enterprise then was seen as one of the most powerful starships
Right.
running around. So
Right.
he had a big arsenal to back up his, whatever decree it was he made. Then when
Right.
you come to next gen, there's way more species, they're way more interconnected. The Federation has partnerships with bunch of different alien races. There are space stations everywhere. There's whole fleets that are roaming around. So if they need support or backup, it could get there relatively soon.
Right.
You know, so yeah, he's still doing the peace thing, and the Enterprise is still powerful, but she's not as alone as Kirk's Enterprise
Right.
was. Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. All
yeah,
right. Well, I did save Chakotay for our talk now. That's why I didn't talk to him
yes,
much earlier. I'll just say I'll start with him if we're ready to move on. I'll go
yes,
for
we
it.
are. Go ahead, go ahead.
Chakotay is the most neutral for me in terms of reaction. Not because I have anything negative to say about him, as much as I don't have much to say about him yet at all. I feel like he's been kind of uh he's the most interesting. The episode that focused on him the most as a character supposedly was the one where he was a ghost. So he his spectral entity was not with inhabiting his own body, for example. Now there have been episodes where he has like confronted McKee characters, and so those have been good. And there have been moments where he has to basically back up Janeway. But so far, we haven't really put Chakotay in a position where he really has to be the one to make some really truly hard decisions. I feel like we've had Torres get earn her role as chief engineer. We've had her confront the other Marquis members. Again, what's the chick's name? Sheer
Seska.
Seska. So I don't know why I said Sheer, but Seska. Like Chakotay wasn't as involved in those particular moments. Um, Seska was also, by the way, probably the most interesting character outside the main cast. Obviously, I think anyone would agree with that. Um, so yeah, Chakotay. I guess part of me is operating this whole time has been with the fact that I have some sort of knowledge about certain things that will happen. Not detailed knowledge, but I know that the Marquis element will continue to play a part, and that there will, I guess, come some sort of crisis moment with the Marquis characters. I'm surprised it hasn't really happened yet. We only had Seska really present any sort of problem. Um, Now, the Doctor, also, I should say real quickly, is also an interesting and enjoyable character. He's basically the Data slash Odo of our crew. He's a very competent individual in the role he has, but his non-humanness is his biggest obstacle to feeling, comfortable amongst other people. Data is, obviously an android, and Odo is a changeling. But the fact that the Doctor is an entity that's supposed to not even exist when he's not needed. He wasn't supposed to be used as much as he has been. He was only ever meant to be a supplement. Um, is curious. So I've liked the idea of the Doctor and the idea of his character moving forward, and I've been surprised by even how quickly, in some ways, they were willing to move his character forward. You know, talking about getting him a name. Like basically, I figured season one would be more to set the tone of what he is so that we can then make changes to what he is, but we're already making changes to what he is, but
Mm.
that's fine. But yeah, going back to Chakotay, I like him, but there's been no real moment where he had real strong conflicts with Janeway. You know, I'm only your second in command because of fate kind of conversation. We also haven't really heard Janeway lament her previous first officer much. Now, of course, the mission they were going on was supposed to be like their first mission, so maybe she never
Mhm.
really had a chance to work with her first officer enough to really feel familiar with that character. But my point is that so far we haven't had the interpersonal conflicts, as many interpersonal conflicts as I would have expected from the situation we're presented with. The Federation, the Maquis are hostile groups. They're having to work together. Again, last episode, the learning curves episode, did start to address that more, and we have had episodes that did bring it up, but the true crisis moment hasn't happened yet. And
Mhm.
I'm assuming that there will be more of a crisis moment at some point, and I look forward to that, but it hasn't happened yet. And Chakotay is a competent individual, but I look forward to more from him at some point. So, yeah.
So I will say, for my take, I agree partly with what you said. I've always felt like Chakotay accepted his role as first officer um, far too easily. They
Yes.
should have done, especially in the first season, there should have been, in my opinion, more pushback,
Right.
more of the Maquis crew members not getting along with each other, or interpersonal conflicts. We see barely any of that. The whole Carrie Balana thing is one flashpan moment, but other than that, no one really does anything. We get a little bit more here in the learning curve
Mhm.
episode, where they have selected these couple of Maquis who are troublemakers, to a degree. But I feel like there should have been far more of them. Let's not forget, like, if we take stock of what we see here in this first season, when the caretaker grabs Voyager and flings it across space,
Mhm.
um, a little bit more than half of the crew dies in
Yeah.
that moment. You
Right.
know, then you have the ones that were experimented on, and all that other kind of stuff, and then we also see the same thing happen to um, Chakotay's crew on their little, fighter that they were on. A lot of those guys die. So it gets to the point where, they have to work together, because Voyager can't function with half its crew dead, and the Maquis ship is no good. It's
Uh-huh.
old. It's barely got any functioning weapons, and it's never going to make it back to the Alpha Quadrant without major assistance. I mean, now of course the ship gets blown up in the pilot as a way of, again, forcing them all to be together or whatever. But
Uh-huh.
still, it's just like, um, you're still forcing together people who, for one reason or another, decided that the Federation, and in particular Starfleet, is
Mhm.
not the life they want to live.
Yeah.
They were all qualified people who obviously could operate a starship, but they chose not to be in Starfleet.
Right.
So suddenly they're forced to be back in Starfleet, because their commanding officer that they had put their faith and stock and trust in has said, okay, we're going to partner with you all. But
Right.
again, they're used to bucking the rules, bucking that society. And now they're really forced. Literally, I mean, think about it. They're forced to do it. If you want, it's basically put to them this way: if you want any hope of getting back to your family and the life you once had ever again,
Mhm.
you will have to serve on this ship, and we are a Starfleet crew.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
They didn't have the option of even saying, well, I mean, I'll stay on board the ship, but I'm not working with you. Like, they didn't
Right.
even get that option. It was,
Yeah.
nope, we need everybody. There's limited resources. Everyone must contribute. And so, because everyone must contribute, you must contribute this way. They weren't given the option of, oh, you can still work with us, but we'll have a separate set of rules for the non-Starfleet. No, there was none of that. It was, we're going to be a crew because we have to be a crew, and because we have to be a crew, I'm setting that rule, and it's a Starfleet crew, not a
Right.
Maquis crew, Starfleet crew. So yeah, I mean, there was just, all of their personal freedoms were overridden, and we saw no bucking of that whatsoever.
Mhm.
Not, like the whole Torres and Carrie situation was not so much a Maquis issue as they tried to make it, but Carrie and B'Elanna didn't have um like a personal philosophical difference. B'Elanna thought she was right. Carrie thought he was right.
Right.
B'Elanna is just an undisciplined hothead.
Right.
And honestly, in the learning curve episode, B'Elanna should have been in there with uh, those other officers.
Right.
She struck a fellow officer in the face.
Yeah.
She broke his nose.
Mhm.
And all she had to do was apologize and impress the captain with her technical prowess. And then she never gets brought up on charges. She's never made to do any kind of remedial training. They made her an officer. They made her the chief engineer.
Right.
Where was her learning curve? Where was her, hey, we're going to make you, at the very least, they could have said, we're going to make you an officer, but you're going to get a crash course in officer candidacy. Tuvok is going to instruct you on how to be a command level officer
Right.
or something like that to address her obvious shortcomings. Because again, Torres never graduated from the academy. She went, but then she dropped out. So to say there are holes in her knowledge
Mhm.
is an understatement. But yeah, I don't agree with her not being included in that. And I don't agree with Chakotay not doing more to educate her. He reprimands her and
Right.
makes her apologize to Carrie, but then he really turns it to Janeway and is like, hey, he even says, I'm trying to help you,
Right.
and you need to do better and get to know these people before you make any decision.
Yeah. That's episode 3 though. That's a yeah.
Again, that's episode 3, and then
Yeah.
we never see an issue with these people again. And then the
Right.
next time that it's brought up is learning curve, and it's these menial characters that we've never seen
Yeah.
before,
Yep.
and honestly, we never see again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your learning curve, buddy. You're done. Yeah. Um yeah, so I Chakotay is a character who I can see potential with who he is. I think the thing that stands out about Riker. Riker is a fun character because again, on the bridge he's very professional. He's not Picard. Whenever he takes authority, takes command, he doesn't operate like Picard. He has his own way of doing things. He's been successful at doing his own way of doing things, but it's always fun to see that change of command. But when he's off, off the bridge, he's just a regular guy. He's Mr. Philanderer. He's very likes playing poker, etc. Um, we haven't seen anything like that from Chakotay. We don't know what he's like when he's not on the bridge, other than that his Native Americanness, which of course we need to briefly bring back up was being problematic. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, at the moment we just don't have a whole lot from Chakotay yet about who is this guy when he's not working. Now, Kira, on the other hand, we almost see because of the way things are on Deep Space Nine, conflict is not so much on the what do they don't call it the bridge. They call it the what? The
Ops.
ops. Yeah. Very rarely do a lot of conflicts actually happen in ops. So in the pilot episode, when she does take command and she's the one who turns the Cardassian um, ships and like says, you know, we're not going to tell you what happened with Ducat, even though she doesn't know what happened either. um, yeah, it's just a curious situation because she gets a chance to shine immediately. Now, does Riker get quite that chance? I know they split the saucer section in the first
Yeah, we don't
episode,
really
but
see Riker's chance until Errand of Mercy, I think, is the episode,
right.
which is like the third one, I think. I don't know. But we're not necessarily doing a season one for season one for season one here. We're just talking about the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
characters in general. I
yeah.
will say really quick. So this is brought up in the chat about what we were saying about Chakotay before and Balana. He says, like in sports, the most talented people get more leeway. That is not necessarily the case. As a person who played sports and did athletics for a large majority of my life, in sports, as I said here, the most talented athletes still have to be broken in. Like, you can have natural talent, and that's what gets people interested and excited about you. But you still have to learn the system. You have to learn the game in order to truly have any level of long-term success. You just because you can throw, kick a ball, score in the basket, the net, whatever it is, because you seem to have again a natural, more effortless way of doing that. You still have to be trained. Otherwise,
Mhm.
that natural thing will go away because every team has talented people on it. So you still must be trained, must hone your skill to make you that much better. So just letting them be wild cards forever would never work. That's why organized sports have practices, have training sessions. You review things, you have coaches. That's what they're all there for. And the fact that, if to use this analogy, the fact that Balana is seen as a natural talent, but is never given any real training, they're just like, we're making you team captain. Way to go. That is
Right.
a problem.
Mm.
Um, now on to what we were saying about Kira. I like that you went there, especially when we're talking about Chakotay, because Chakotay is a Maquis. Um, you can almost think of Bajorans as like the default Maquis. They're
Right.
kind of they're kind of where the idea came from.
Oh, 100%. Oh,
And
yeah.
and being these freedom fighters, and we know that Kira has been doing this, as she says, pretty much all her life since she was able to first hold the phaser. She's been fighting the Cardassians and trying to get them off her planet.
Right.
So it's watching her transformation and watching how she. Even in her earliest days, she is hostile, she is combative, but she does accept the chain of command. She doesn't put up a big pushback with Cisco when he arrives, but she does speak her mind. She
Mhm.
does speak up for things that she doesn't agree with that he does, but she still follows him. Chakotay doesn't really do that. He's just kind of like, okay, we're going to play this your way. And then they go along, you know. He yeah, I always felt like he just gave up too soon. And then his whole I'm gonna fight for my people thing, it really only came up when it was people that he seemed interested in.
Mm.
Like, he to tried to convince Janeway to take on B'Elanna as chief engineer, but then he singled out these individuals who needed this remedial training, and even goes so far as to punch one of them in the face.
Yeah.
And so it's like these are people that he already identified as being problematic.
And
You know,
as we said, we talked last week, it would have been better if he was the one who had
yeah.
trained them, not Tuvok. Yeah.
Right, because he was seeing them already as a problem, which means they had to have interfered with him to some degree as well. So Janeway's assessment of, well, we're the ones who have to earn their respect, not him. That's not true. That's not true.
Right.
He needed to show them too, because he's the one who forced them into the situation. He
Mm.
needs to show his Maquis crew members why.
Right.
Why we're now doing things this way. Why I have signed us up to follow this woman, and I'm not leading a coup, a mutiny to take over her ship and
Right.
put us in charge. He needs to show them why. And the fact that he wasn't involved at all in their training was a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a mistake. I mean, it's such an obvious mistake that it does feel it's like a writing problem more than
Yeah,
even an internal problem. Yeah.
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 I think
So.
this is just one of those situations where they really wanted to have the heavy lifting done by Tuvok,
Mhm.
and they wanted to take Chakotay. Like, just that's where it was. They just wanted the heavy lifting to be done by Tuvok. They wanted there to be a reason for it, and that's also why the conflict between the Maquis and the Starfleet officers goes away so quickly.
Right.
So yeah, I felt like that was a mistake. We should have seen more internal conflicts between those two groups, and it would have made the Seska reveal all the more uh compelling
Yeah.
if there were many rebellions with crew members, or rumblings and grumblings, and some people being friends and some people not, or some people who were friends, but then all of a sudden they find out that friends of friends don't like these people, so now they got to pull out of that. Like there was so much of that that could have gone into this that they didn't do. Um,
Well, they could have had stuff like the Marquis becoming friends with the Federation characters and vice versa. And yes, the
mhm.
Seska then betrayal would have meant more. Um, she's been betraying them the whole time, even as a Marquis member. She was actually a Cardassian, etc. Um, yeah, it's almost too bad they revealed her so quickly. I mean, I think we said that even in the episode we
Yeah,
talked about it. I was like, man, this is a great little plot. You've gone ahead and jumped that part of the storyline forward. So,
yeah,
um,
that should have gone on for at least 2 seasons.
yeah, I think we
You
said
know,
like Eddington was the comparing
yeah,
character. He was
yeah,
a part of our show for long enough that we were like, oh, he's a regular cast member. Oh my gosh, he's actually the Marquis leader.
right.
What's going on?
Like we suspected him of being a changeling far more before we were suspected him of being
Yeah,
a
a Marquis
Maquis.
member. Yeah,
So yeah,
nothing like that.
they played that well, and I wish that they had, yeah, as we said then, we wish they dragged it out.
Yeah.
Your
By the
comparison of the
way,
go ahead.
Eddington would have been a character right around the time that all this is going on Voyager, right? Like they were
Yes, that is
working
correct.
those plot
He
lines.
joined on Deep Space Nine either
Season three,
right
I feel.
before, yeah, like right before Voyager dropped, I think.
Hmm.
We can go back and double check that timeline, but I think that's correct. I think that he joined, yeah, right around the same time. So, yeah, interesting way to put him in there and then make him a marquee threat as well.
Right.
Um, now, I was going to say your comparison of the crews, um, Enterprise, the Enterprise D with Picard and on them, consummate professionals handling very serious matters, and then
Hmm.
we move into Deep Space Nine where it's kind of the same.
Hmm.
But these are consummate professionals, but some of them are a little damaged. Cisco's got PTSD, but now he's like totally committed to his son and his job.
Right.
There's nothing else for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kira is invested because this is her homeland. So she's already serious because she knows her decisions will affect her people, you
Right.
know, stuff like that. We get to
Yeah.
Voyager and everybody is um I just always got the impression that really beyond Tuvok, everybody's really just new. Like uh
Yeah.
uh, you know, Paris
Janeway's
has
new
been
to
in
the cap.
jail.
Yeah.
Right. Paris has been in jail for the last few years. So this is his first chance really piloting. And it was an accident. He wasn't supposed to be the pilot, he was an advisor.
Right.
Chakotay, I mean, he's been in command, but he hasn't been in Starfleet in a good number of years. So we
Yeah.
don't, so he's got no experience there. Janeway, this is her first major command. We know that she had a ship before, but Voyager is her first top of the line, brand new, rolling her off the assembly line ship that she's ever had.
Biogel packs,
Yeah,
baby.
it's chock full of new technology, biogel, holodeck or holographic characters, all of that. She's got all these the folding wings of the nacelles. She's got that. Um, who else? Harry is brand new, fresh in the academy. It's his first posting,
Ensign.
and he's
Yeah.
a senior officer. Straight from the academy, he's a bridge officer.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so
again,
just
if they had done, did they? Yeah, Kim is right there. They didn't say like he's replacing some other character who
no,
died.
Kim was there from the beginning. That
Yeah.
was his. He came into that role. He was not
Yeah.
replacing anybody. They were waiting for him at Deep Space Nine,
Right.
basically. So yeah, everybody's just really new, and you just get this feeling that they haven't had time to find that professional footing, and
Right.
it's like but this wasn't supposed to be their mission. This was, yeah, we're going into the Badlands, hoping to hunt these people down. Your mission was going to take you a couple of weeks, then you'd be back. Jamie was planning on going to get married and whatnot.
Right.
So her just a whole different kind of dynamic that
Right.
was set up here, and then yeah, I just always felt like, and we see the comparison a lot. How would Cisco and company have handled being whisked away to the Delta Quadrant, or how would Picard and that crew have fared being whisked away? And there are several videos about it that try to like break it down into who would do what and whatever else.
Right.
Some that go very serious, some not so much. One of my favorites is had Cisco and the Defiant been whisked away to the Delta Quadrant, Cisco would have been home in 24 hours. And and it was because Cisco would not have allowed the caretaker
Mess with them, like
to
yeah.
keep them there or whatever. He would have demanded they be sent back, and he would have blown up all the whatever. So it was just it was very funny. It was like Cisco would have done it, and like Picard, it would have taken longer because he would have had his own moral quandary, but he would have used data to solve the Ocampans problem,
Right.
and then they would have gone home. So that's it was just it's a very funny video. But then the more serious ones do a great breakdown of which ship would have done, and what the captain styles would have been and everything else. I can link that to you guys later on if you're interested at all. But I always found those funny. Um, so out of these three first officers, we you know what we haven't really talked about Riker very much, um, and I like Riker. Riker is my favorite first officer,
Yeah.
and I really feel like he does a great job of balancing the interpersonal skill set with
Right.
his command style skill set.
Yes.
He does a really great job of being that guy that when Picard is being a particular hard ass, and or the situation is dire, I should say, and Picard is deep in his, introspective, I've got to make a decision that's going to affect the whole, you know, quadrant type whatever.
Mhm.
Riker's very good at handling the minutia, the details around that, and
Yeah.
keeping the crew cohesive. And I
Yes.
really enjoy that about his character. He's not
Yes.
over the top about it, he's not in your face about it, but he offers a level of assurance that we don't see in any of the other first officers.
Right.
I really like him. Um,
Yeah.
I just I've always thought he was what we would aspire to today, or should
Hmm.
aspire to today in like a competent second in command of anything. Be that your company, your job, your country. You want somebody that gives you this sense of again assurance that the people at the top are there for a reason, and if something happens you have very competent secondary leadership to either back them up or step in when they're messing up or explain what the situation is and why, like, again, give that level of assurance. I
Hmm.
always felt like he was really good at exemplifying that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Riker's the moments that are always fun to see when a captain and first officer are on screen together is when the captain is thinking about something and he gives some sort of command or something happens and the first officer says red alert and Mr. Data, can you please do this or that? And then like the first officer is doing all of the necessary things to get the crew in a position where they can offer up their skill set to the captain in full. And the captain can say, belay that order. And Riker is the best at that. Riker is just boom. And the problem with Deep Space Nine is that we just don't see a whole ton of episodes where that was a chance to shine. Um, even
No,
with all the
you don't
Defiant,
really see it. I feel like you don't really see it until later, when the Defiant becomes more into play and when Worf shows up. And so then you have this weird dynamic that develops between Worf, Kira, and Cisco. And Cisco is obviously undeniably in command. But in Cisco's absence, or in the need for Cisco to be separate from the Defiant or whatever, how does command work? And who does what? Now we've heard Worf say clearly,
uh-huh.
you make, like, to Kira, for example, when Cisco is absent, he's like, you may command the station, but I command the Defiant. So there's this clear separation there, and a lot of people took that into uh, just to accept it that Worf was the de facto commander of the Defiant whenever Cisco was not in command of the Defiant. That's not always the case because there are times when Worf, Kira, and Cisco are all present on the Defiant, and then it's who is in charge. So I went back and I was looking this up to try to figure it out, and the best explanation that I could find was basically saying, well, it depends. It depends on the mission, right? So in those situations, if the mission is Starfleet heavy, and
Uh,
by that it's official Starfleet, not just Federation, but official Starfleet business,
mhm.
Worf is the first officer.
Right.
Anything else that branches into levels of greater Federation stuff, diplomacy, or the interests of multiple people, Kira is the first officer
Right.
because it borders on the side of more on diplomacy, and she is a representative of yet another group or faction that's coming into the Federation. So, in
Right.
order to show this kind of openness and inclusiveness, it made more sense for her to be the one that would take over and lead versus Worf, who is already in the Federation and in Starfleet.
Right.
So, I like that. Um, but
Yeah, I
we
guess I'm
don't
just
really
getting
see
at
that.
is there's
Yeah,
there's never as many episodes where we get any sort of clear delineation about how that really works. Like it, I
yeah.
mean, obviously I'm not saying that's a bad thing per se. I'm just saying like that's just the truth of the situation
Yeah,
because
their
it's a
situation
different
was
style.
unique to a degree. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. And we have had some moments of Chakotay doing it where he falls into the role of first officer so quickly that it's almost I don't know how to. I mean, it's almost too perfect. I
Like I
guess.
said, it feels like he gave up.
Yeah.
There's no pushback. He's just like, she's the captain. I'm in. I'm down. And there's
Right.
there's just no pushback. And it doesn't feel like it feels like there should be pushback because again, he was a captain in his own right, and also he chose to leave Starfleet.
Right.
So whereas Riker has always, he's a career officer. He wants his own command one day,
Right.
So yeah, there while we can clearly see the difference in their styles,
Mhm.
I don't think that the differences were highlighted well enough for Chakotay for it to make a lot of sense. Now,
Right.
I think that they also tried to push a lot of Chakotay's indifference on, oh, he's just a natural peacemaker due to his Native American
Hmm.
roots, his vibe. But
Right.
as we all know, um, there's problems with
Right.
the Native American aspect of Chakotay.
Right.
Mr. Jamake Highwater really did a number on these guys when it comes to putting together uh, his Native American ness.
Mhm.
Now, was there anything that you wanted to say on that? Because I know that we've tried to, or it's been tried to be explained away in a couple of different ways.
Well, I know you and I discussed when we were discussing what we're going to talk about for this episode. I just thinking um, the actor who plays Chakotay, whose name I forget to remind me of
Robert
that,
Beltran.
Robert Beltran, just being almost surprised that he himself was a little bit so quick to just take whatever was given him and run with it as whatever the episode like this is how the
Yeah.
Native Americans do this. Okay. Like okay. Like I mean I don't know what how I would have responded if I was in his position. I might have been the same of like I'm here to do a job. This is how
Yeah.
they're writing the episode. I'm doing what I'm told to do. Um
So I
but
really
yeah.
feel like this is just one of those problems of shows in the 90s where I don't know why this is for them because I feel like we do this now a lot. Um, there was no forward thinking for a lot of these things. No one thought that in their wildest dreams, people would be rewatching these shows again. Which again, I don't know why they thought that. People were still watching the original series, still watching those movies, still watching first seasons of Next Gen where they could find it. I mean, syndication was, what it was, but there was no streaming, there was no Netflix service, there was none of those things, and so for some
Right.
reason, people just didn't think that was ever going to happen. And then for TV roles, there was never really a whole lot of the actors having to do a lot of their own research. A lot of times stuff was just presented to them and they were just like, I'm happy to have a job. I'm going to just eat this up. I'm just going to do it. You know,
Right.
whatever it is they tell me, I'm going to do it because it's steady work. It's a stable, good paycheck. I'm going to take this and run with it for as long as I can.
Right.
And if there's one thing that people knew in regards to Trek, if you signed up with a Trek show, you were almost guaranteed 7 years.
Mm.
7 years was
Steady work,
huge.
man. Yeah.
Right. And when you're on something that was gaining so much attention and tracking, because again, Next Generation was doing some incredible numbers and they were pumping out movies. And now here comes Voyager, and Voyager is not just the next newest show, but they're launching a network behind it. UPN was
Mm.
born because of Voyager, you
Right.
know. Um yeah, there was just a lot of, oh my God, I'm signing up. I will do whatever you say because I'm going to be on your pilot show. That's the vehicle for your new network that's going to go on for 7 years. There's no way we're not getting a movie out of this. I'm doing it.
Right.
And I just don't think that any of the actors, beyond what was necessary to portray whatever for a certain scene, did any extended research. So when Jamaki Highwater came in and said, "You're an Indian and you do this and you believe this and you do this, whatever," never crossed his mind to be like, you know what? I'm gonna go talk to someone and
Right.
see if this is true. Google wasn't even a thing yet. The show started in '94. Didn't Google start in '95?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, there was no
Google
type it in. Yeah,
it.
there was no Google it. There was no search engine. I think Netscape would have been the closest that
You've
they would have
got
had access to.
mail.
Right, exactly. There was nothing there for them to really, um, I got 20 minutes, or I'm off this week. I got some time. Let me, there was none of that. Um, so yeah, I don't necessarily blame him,
Right.
but nowadays I feel like when actors are given roles, especially if they have any kind of ethnic component to them,
Right.
I think any actor who doesn't at the very least, do a cursory search
Hmm.
of whatever it is doing themselves a huge disservice at the very least and setting themselves up for failure. You should take 15 minutes
Well,
and
I guess
Google
part of me
Google
is
the thing.
surprised is that they didn't. They only had one guy as their consultant on this particular subject. Go find some dude and get him hired. They didn't get like two, three different opinions on.
No, right.
It's just
And
one
the
guy.
and the thing about that too that's also so problematic is Highwater had already been revealed to be a fraud
Mm,
before they hired him. So
yeah.
how he made his way to Paramount and into this role still baffles me. I mean, talk about failing upwards. I mean, you'd already been found out. They already knew you were a fraud. Like I believe that he was denounced as an out and out fraud in like the late 80s.
Right.
So they had a good 5 to 10 year lead on this guy, knowing he was a fraud. And so how he convinced them otherwise and got the job is beyond me. Um,
Yeah.
and I just think that it's one of those things too that did Chakotay a disservice because I really feel like, especially in these early days, they tried to hammer home for him that he's the passionate pacifist. They wanted strong Native American exterior, but uh, heart of gold, ready to cry about it interior. He's so upset he's not gonna fight you right now, but he's gonna go in his room and do a medicine wheel search or whatever it
Mhm.
is. Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like that characterization of him, and I'd always wished that he had responded with a little bit more self assurance and strength
Right.
to things instead of just capitulating at every turn. And the only time we ever really see him get flared up about something was when he got to punch that lower decker in the face. So, yeah, didn't like that.
Right.
So then, with all that said, so far out of these three, who is your favorite? Riker, Kira, or Chakotay?
I'd say Riker again. Just, I mean, to be very clear, everything TNG related is so the standard that
Yeah,
it's you have to beat the standard to like be better than uh to earn that position. So in Kira, Chakotay has a harder job because again, he has more direct comparisons to Riker. He is way more. He has his position is exactly the same, whereas Kira is as I've already said, she's not on the ship, the Defiant, in the same position. The role of ops is not quite the role of the bridge. It is actually different positions in that sense. So
mhm,
and Kira, she has more of a personal story. I mean, like I was saying, Riker has a personal, like he is his individuality as a person comes out when he's not on the bridge, but he doesn't have the internal conflict. I mean,
right.
season one of Deep Space Nine is almost always best when it's about Kira. Like Kira is like
Yeah,
the star early on,
yeah.
and
Kira gets put into some very hardcore situations
right,
real early.
yeah,
Real and because they use her as a way for us to view the Bajoran Cardassian conflict.
yes. So as like a character, as an individual character, I would say even Kira is better than Riker. Riker's
Yeah,
better in
okay.
this. Riker's better in the sense of like he fits better into this overall cohesive, crew.
Yes.
Um, and he fits his role so well. Kira is again so different in her role to the story and to the crew that she has her own thing going on. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
Chakotay. What we need from Chakotay is we need him and Janeway to butt heads more. We need them to really have some conflict, even with Tuvok, for example. We've already seen more conflict between him and Tuvok, I feel, than between him and Janeway. Um,
Yeah.
is that right? Maybe I'm not thinking.
No, you're correct. I would agree with that because, like, for example, well, Chakotay was already mad at Tuvok because Tuvok was revealed to be a spy on his ship.
Oh
So
yes, that's right.
he never really got over that. Then we see later on again with the Carrie Balana incident, Chakotay or Tuvok wants to arrest Balana, which he's right for. She struck an officer in the face and broke his nose. And so
Yeah,
Tuvok wants to arrest her, and Chakotay's like, "Yeah, you're
we
not
don't
doing
have.
that, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna drop this matter right
Mhm,
now."
mhm.
Yeah, that's and he was just very, on point with Chakotay there.
Right.
And then, oddly enough, in the Cathexis episode, Tuvok and Chakotay are the ones that are in the shuttle together, and when the shuttle comes back, Chakotay's unconscious. I mean, I know that he was inhabited by an alien or whatever, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
But I just find it so funny that these two are the ones.
yeah.
And um, correct me if I'm wrong, someone else, because David won't know. But I do believe that's the last time that those two are ever on a shuttle mission together
Mm.
again. I don't think for the rest of the show we ever see
Well, at
or
least not
hear or even
alone,
hear about or even
right?
yeah. I don't think they were ever on a shuttle together again.
Interesting.
Now, again, if I'm wrong about that, I will totally accept it. But in my numerous rewatches of the show, I can't think of another time where both Chakotay and Tuvok are on a shuttle together. Now, not just by themselves, but just on a shuttle together. Whether there's other officers, whether Tom is with them, Harry, whatever. If they are, but I don't think so. I think that we never see the two of them together again on a uh, mission.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we need more conflict from his character because that's what the role what Voyager's about is we need more clashes between an integrated crew. They're in a more stressful situation than TNG ever was in. Even fighting the Borg is, is the job of the day as opposed to having to slowly work your way back home. So yeah, Chakotay's fine. Other characters are fine. Again, the only character I actively just don't really care for much at all is Paris. He needs to really work on earning himself into my good graces, and Kim just needs to be more than just the new kid on the block. just because he's green doesn't mean he can't be an interesting character. So yeah, yeah, I feel like I've hit pretty much everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so I just looked it up really quick, and apparently, uh, Tuvok and Chakotay are paired up 4 times total
Okay.
in Voyager. So one of them is the Cathexis episode. The other one is State of Flux, where they investigated a Kazon warship, and we're looking for Seska. So that's both of those are in season 1, and then the next time we see them together are in 2 episodes in season 2, where they have to be on a shuttle. But other than that, they're never on shuttles again. They do other away missions with other people, but they're never on shuttles together. So I didn't know that. And again, I found it interesting that it's only 4 times, and it's in seasons 1 and season 2. After that, while they do things where they're partnered up or whatever, typically it's a beam in away team situation, because obviously Chakotay is the first officer, Tuvok is chief of security, so there's
Right.
that. But they're never alone together on a shuttlecraft again, apparently. So there.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Well, I think that's really going to do it for us on this episode. We actually managed to go over our time even a bit more. Next time, well, not like as in the very next episode, but maybe the next time we're doing one of these recaps, we will do a comparison of duos. How do the Picard and Riker versus Janeway and Chakotay versus Cisco and Kira
Mm,
stack up?
okay.
How does the leadership team work out in
Right.
comparison? So I think that'll be fun to do as well. We'll get there where we're comparing everybody, and who knows, we might even throw a little Kirk and Spock into the mix, which again I still feel like is unfair. Even just saying it right now, I felt like it was just unfair.
It
Um,
is its own thing in a
yeah,
sense.
it
Yeah.
really is. It really is. So, but yeah, um, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us on this particular episode. Again, you can join us every single week here on our YouTube channel. Of course, hopefully things are streaming again on the various sites wherever you do your podcast listens, of course. And again, if you want to give us any tips, tricks, whatever it is that you want to talk about, drop those comments onto an episode and we'll get to you as soon as we can. As always, remember to be polite, otherwise, we'll ignore you because we
Right.
can. You can't stop us. All right. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the next week. Hopefully David survives this next week of workouts
Man.
because
Okay.
we've got some work to do. I've been taking it easy on him for the past.
Oh.
How long have we been doing
Oh.
this?
It's been a
How,
month and a half, I feel
I
like.
I was gonna. I don't know because I mean it's June. Did we start this? I don't think we started this in May. Did we?
Yeah. In May. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's I know why. I know why it feels shorter to me because we ran into that basically like monsoon season.
Yeah.
And so
I
we
think I had
got
a
like
week off.
one,
Yeah.
yeah, we got like one workout and then it would rain for like 8 days or,
Mm.
whatever. So yeah. Um, so anyway, it's all coming to a head. We're gonna start making some changes here. Hopefully you'll be able to look at us from videos like this to videos in the next, 6 weeks or so. And hopefully at the very least our faces will look a little bit,
Right.
more refined or whatever. Hopefully, or we can go the other way. Maybe we'll all just veg out on pizza and be fat for real. Who knows? But all
Yeah.
right, guys. Until next week, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.